And I recommend you guys mute your microphones.
That one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment.
And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. The newest show sensation streaming throughout the multiverse. Your hang place in cyberspace for paranormal news and views. Taboo Topics with Gene Broida.
Welcome, everyone, to Taboo Topics with Gene Broida. I'm your host, Gene Broida, also known as Lightworker 111, beaming to you from sea to shining sea, across the Americas and the world every Sunday night between 7 and 9 p.m. Eastern Time on my Taboo Topics YouTube channel and at tabootopics.life/shows. On each episode of Taboo Topics with Gene Broida, our panelists share news articles about paranormal events, conspiracies, and other hush-hush subjects to shed light on the darkness coming from the government and mainstream media. The news bringer gives feedback before inviting discussion from other panelists. And on today's show, please welcome our guest panelists, Tom McGuire, practicing psychologist and paratherapist, and Keith Ottersberg, a lifelong paranormal experiencer turned researcher. Tom, please share a little bit about yourself with the viewers.
Hi, everyone. This is Tom McGuire. I live in northern Wisconsin and work in Rhinelander, Wisconsin, which is way up past Wausau, like an hour and a half north of that. So that's where I live and work. There's like 10 inches of snow on the ground, but actually it's like 44 degrees. We're having a t-shirt weather day, as we say up here. I've been interested in the paranormal since, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, watching TV shows, and just happened in 2013 I connected with the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society and been a member ever since, and been on numerous um, paranormal adventures. Some is haunting, some following, trying to find Bigfoot. Sometimes we have interest in UFOs. We cover the whole field in our society. I'm also a psychotherapist. I'm a licensed professional counselor. I have my own private practice in Rhinelander, Wisconsin, Cornerstone Psychological Associates. I've worked 4 days a week from 9 in the morning till 9 at night, and then I get a 3-day weekend. So that's who I am. This is like a second career field for me, second midlife career change. I originally was got my bachelor's degree in psychology, it was 72, and with a bachelor's degree in psychology, you really can't do much. You need to continue on in schooling, but I was tired of school, so I joined the Air Force and learned electronics. So I was in the electronics field for like 15, 17 years. And then I got permanently laid off where I was working. So then I still have my GI Bill, so I didn't want to waste it. So I went back to school and got my master's degree. And then I've been doing this type of work ever since.
Awesome. That's fabulous. Yes, I understand the undervalue of a psychology undergraduate degree. And Keith, please, Keith Ottersberg, please introduce yourself to the viewers.
All right, Keith Ottersberg of Cobra Paranormal, Wymore, Nebraska. I have experienced paranormal activity most of my life. Good aspects and some definite not so good aspects. Something happened to me when I was 6 years old, and that is when everything started. That is actually what got me into the paranormal field, was trying to, over the years, trying to learn what was happening, why it was happening to me, to my family. So eventually we got some teams to come to our home, investigate it. Naturally, we got evidence, but nobody could tell us how to fix things, how to make the activity go away. And this is at every home that we've lived in. We've had activity. Finally, I was able to join a team so that I could learn more. Still wasn't able to find out any answers. Still continued to go through, our activity. Some of it was very damaging, physically and mentally. I had the crap beat out of me in bed, drug out of my bed, drug down my stairs, and thrown on my living room floor. Something grabbed my throat. I've still got red marks from it to this day, and held me off the ground, choking me. That's the kind of activity that we had. Eventually, I reached out to a show called Dead Files. Took about 4.5 years, but I did finally get them to come. Lengthy process. They have to make sure you're not, cuckoo. They came. They found there was enough here to do the show. I didn't even care if it ever aired. I just wanted the help. Amy came in, Steve came in. They did a lot of research, found out why things were happening in the current home. And Amy finally figured out what the main issue was, why everything kept, quote, following us. The main issue was inside me. It was a possession since I was 6. I have been clean of that for 2 years now. She sent a group called the Spirit Mechanics up from Lexington, I can never say it, Lexington, Kentucky, all the way up here to Wymore, Nebraska to help us out. And I tell you what, she knew exactly who to send. They came in, wiped the place clean, fixed me, and they actually were impressed enough with what my team could do, our gifts, that we're now the Nebraska chapter of the Spirit Mechanics, and we are able, with their training, we are able to go out and assist other people who are having the same issues that we had. So it's it's come full circle.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. And I am your host, Jean Broida. Welcome everyone to the March 1st episode of Taboo Topics with Jean Broida on my YouTube channel, Taboo Topics with Jean Broida, being simulcast on the Global Enlightenment Radio Network. Awesomeness is occurring. Just a little bit about myself. I'm a lifelong UFO researcher. I'm a psychic, parapsychologist. I've written a book called Unknown Objects, the Top 10 US UFO Cases. And you can read that to find out why you must be crazy not to believe in UFOs. It's available on Amazon. I'm an avid news hound. I have advanced degrees in computer science and I have an advanced degree in computer science and a bachelor's in psychology and education. And as I said, I'm a practicing mystic. I read cards, I do astrology, and I'm not alone. I'm joining a growing number of truth seekers around the world and starseeds who are waking up to, especially to the emotional impact that this sweeping global official cover-up on paranormal of all kind, paranormal topics, issues, phenomenon of all kind, it's having this effect on society, and it's not good. This effect is not good. And we talk about it here on Taboo Topics. We happen to be living in remarkable times. Light workers are awakening all around the world to consciousness and in numbers never before seen. And we here tonight, we panelists, hope you all there in viewerland will enjoy today's show, depending on where you are, as we intend to shed light in the dark corners of reality as we know it. And now let's begin talking about our taboo topics. I'm thrilled to ask Tom McGuire to lead us off with a juicy news article on a taboo topic of his choosing. Take it away, Tom.
Hi, everyone. I know that a lot of times the subject of ghosts or spirits comes up in children. And to all the parents out there, this article might be important to think about and figure out what also you can do to help the children understand what that's about. I got this article out of the Washington Post, and it's called "Why Do So Many Kids See Ghosts?" We asked some psychologists. So I'll start reading it. In the spirit of Halloween, prepare yourself for my spookiest story. When I was about 3, my mother took me to her friend's Donna's farmhouse. As a grown-up sipped tea in the kitchen, I played freely throughout the house. This was in the 80s. Until reporting back with some alarm news, a little girl was crying at the top of the stairs. Mom dismissed it as just my imagination, while Donna's face turned white. She just remembered what her daughter, long grown up and moved out, used to see and say as a child, a little girl crying at the top of the stairs. Remember, this is the author talking, not me. I didn't have this experience. I don't remember any of this, of course. 3 decades later, this unfact-checkable story has gone the way of many campfire tales. It's mostly fun and only partly scary, though firm proof for this undeniable truth. Children are spooky little creeps who see ghosts, report past lives, and chat at night with dead relatives. If you don't feel like sleeping tonight, I suggest heading over to Reddit and falling down a terrifying rabbit hole. Jezebel collects and publishes an annual list for Halloween that will haunt you for the rest of the year. Turns out kids see ghosts all the time. When I fished for stories in my local moms group, dozens of moms delivered in spades. A little boy who saw zillions of people walking slowly through an empty cemetery. A 2-year-old who reported, "Grandma's in the sky with Pappy," minutes after her grandmother's death. And a child especially disturbing imagery friend named Susie, her father's late first wife. The phenomenon of kids allegedly seeing ghosts thrives online, but no matter how improbable or improvable, the volume of these stories alone is enough to make scientists take notice. There are admittedly lots of reports of kids seeing ghosts, says Jacqueline Woolley, psychological professor at the University of Texas. Woolley's research dives deep into children evaluation and understanding of reality versus the fantastical. She revels in my tale about the girl on the stairs. That's enough to make you believe that it's real for about a millisecond, she says. Though good Halloween fun, there are many holes in stories like mine, Woolley says, namely the brain. Our minds naturally make connections between events, whether they're connected or not. The brain pays attention to evidence that fits our theory and ignore the evidence that doesn't fit, she says. For example, it's far more likely that a child overheard the name Susie 100 times than the undead Susie lingers in this realm for an eternity of tea parties. Next, consider children's fertile imagination, and you could easily argue that Susie is not a ghost, but actually an imaginary friend. We know that between a third and 2/3 of children have imaginary companions, says Charles Fernie, who a psychologist at Durham University, where he investigates the phenomenon of hallucinations. Not too long ago, imaginary friends were considered a precursor to mental illness. Now we know they're a positive sign of healthy child development. Now adults come to me concerned if their kids don't have a imaginary friend, he says. Developmental psychologists such as Jean Piaget have been fascinated by the murky line between fantasy and reality for kids, whether it's imaginary friends or dreams or, ghosts. Old thinking assumed kids just couldn't differentiate between what's real and what's not, while new thinkers such as Woolley believes kids know full what's real, even if it looks like they can't tell the difference. Fernie who falls somewhere in the middle. I think on occasion, kids do mix up imagination and reality to have something like a hallucination-like experience. If you would never tell your child that their imaginary friend isn't real or that they're just imagining things or even lying, you should treat an encounter with a so-called ghost the same way. While which presents a strange question. How should you react if your little one reports a visit from the other side? Most important, do not flip out. A lot of parents get worried about imaginary companions and strange experiences. Bernie Hoos says, unless there's a real distress, do not worry. To know whether there's a real distress, just ask the child. You want to work with the emotion, not the ghost, Woolley says. Now is not the time for a grown-up lesson on imagination versus reality, because if they're scared, it doesn't matter anyway, she says. Yeah, it's important to validate the child's feeling first. Instead, Woolley suggests you work with the fantasy, just like you might for a monster under the bed. Engage with the kid as to what it looks like and what it does. Ask her if she's scared of the ghost or if she likes it and if she's seen it before. The scary ghost can be tweaked as necessary. Maybe you can help the child pretend he's an old time underwear, for example, to become a friendly one. Then it's up to you as a parent to decide if you want to encourage or discourage this belief. My mother did the former, subscribing fully to the notion of friends friendly ghosts, which to this day are said to haunt our house. As for me, I'd say I'm 99% logically unbeliever, though really 1% is all you need. Even the scientists agree. It's important to never say never, Willie says, because it's the scientific way to be. It can't be easy, but child psychiatrist Jim B. Tucker is balancing science and the paranormal at the Division of Perceptual Studies at the University of Virginia. We don't take the approach of believer or non-believer. We research and explore the phenomenon of children who report past lives, he says. Overlapping often are reports of kids who see dead relatives, including some who were dead long before the child was born. They tend to go something like this. When my daughter was 3 years old, she started telling us that she was being woken up in the night by a man who was tickling her feet. Read one tale on BuzzFeed. We figured she was just dreaming until we came across an old photo of my grandparents on their wedding day, and my daughter pointed at my grandfather and said, "That's him. That's the man who's tickling my feet." My grandfather passed away when I was 6 years old. When you hear enough stories like that, you do start to think there must be something there. I'm open to it. That's all I can say. Whether you believe or not has best advice is to be cool. I don't know if your reality have to do with anything other than listening to what your child says. Kids grow up and grow out of it and let it go. But do they really? Here I am, 3 decades past, little girl on the stairs, still loving the story. And now that I have my own toddler, I'm sure the sponges up all my love of witches and ghouls come October. My guess is that kids see ghosts much more commonly around Halloween when their parents believe, Willie says. To boot one last story, we were curled up reading books the other night when my 2-year-old whispered, "There's someone at the door." "What did you say?" I asked, peering at the dark, empty doorway. "There's someone at the door," she slowly repeated. Then she pointed matter-of-factly at the book we were reading, where little Miss Lucky indeed had a visitor at her door, proving that the only shocked, spooky creep in that bedroom was me. Rosemary Counter is a Toronto-based writer and who have very disappointingly hasn't seen a ghost this season. So that's the article I thought would be interesting for people. The best thing with children is to, don't be afraid and just be matter of fact and help them be calm about the situation. And then that's the best way to help them get through whatever they're looking at or thinking about.
I can kind of relate to exactly what you're saying there. My granddaughter, she will actually pull you into her grandma's closet, and she talks to her great grandmother in there.
Oh, okay.
Also, my first paranormal experience when I was 6, something tried to attack us in our house. My mom walked right through it. It couldn't see anything. Children are reinforced that there's nothing there. Ghosts don't exist. So it's learned out of you. We're all born with abilities, and it's learned out of you until, at least in my case, a traumatic experience happened. So I totally get the gist of that story.
I get it
Yeah,
too. And one thing that I was wondering was there was the comment that kids seem to report seeing more ghosts around Halloween, and that would be because their parents believe in ghosts and are talking about ghosts and getting ready for Halloween and trick or treat, one would think, depending on the age of the kids. But the other, as a metaphysicist and a pagan, the other explanation might be there are more ghosts at Halloween.
yes.
The veil is thinner. Yes.
The veil is thinner.
Exactly,
Very
the veil
good.
thins. But you were going to say something, Tom. about Keith's experience, I think.
Yeah, I've heard numerous stories over time, just like the author of that article, and I always have to end up talking to parents about how to handle when their children see something or is afraid of something. It's always better to validate their feelings first, and so um, that that just helps them feel listened to, that they're listened to and not discounted. That's really important when you're raising children.
Yeah, you anticipated my question, Tom, was do you see kids in your counseling? And it sounds like, yes, you do. And the parents are bringing them in, presumably, because the kids are talking about disturbances, right?
Well, up to like 4 years ago, I saw kids. Now it's too hard to get up off the floor. So I stopped seeing little kids.
Oh, you mean to get down to their level?
Yeah, you have to get down their level and play with the toys. And it was a cool job to do that with kids because, it says I get to play with kids and get paid for it.
Well, Keith, were you validated in your childhood, or did people accuse you of making stuff up and being a fake, basically?
Yeah. Wasn't believed. Always got told there's no such thing as ghosts. There's no such thing as ghosts. My sisters also felt something up in our attic along with me. None of us would go up there. The light up there would turn on by itself, shut off by itself. You'd hear footsteps up there. Mom, Dad, they couldn't hear it. They just kept telling us, it's not real. You talk to your teachers about it. It's not real. Ghosts don't exist. It's your imagination, like that story said. It's blamed on the imagination. A lot of our clients have children, and they talk to friends. So we work with those children in understanding that, okay, we believe you. What is this person saying to you? What does this person look like? And we'll do some research and try to figure out who that person is and try to help them cross over as well as help the family. That's very important. We get to help people on both sides of the veil, the living and the past.
That's awesome. And for viewers who have just tuned in, welcome to Taboo Topics with Gene Broida. And tonight we have Keith Ottersberg, who is talking about his ghost hunting team, basically doing pest control and getting rid of unwanted spirits. We're talking about a topic that Tom McGuire brought to the table, an article about kids who say they've seen ghosts or perhaps other paranormal phenomenon, and how as an adult or their parent to tell if are they being genuine, in other words, did they actually see something or are they just making it up to get attention? If they did see something, what did they see? Am I right, Tom?
Yes. If it reoccurs, it'd be good to get a hold of a paranormal team to explore any um, paranormal phenomena that could occur. When we go to a house that does have children, they feel like reassured because a professional team is there to help them, and that they won't feel alone anymore. And a lot of times when we are able to have what's there move on, they just give us hugs and everything else because they can tell that the atmosphere in the house is different, and they're really happy about it.
Well, they must be relieved that some adults are taking them seriously too.
Yes, exactly.
Definitely.
And earlier today, Keith and I were testing out Zoom where we meet, and I was talking to him about when families or individuals know that there is a ghost or some sort of haunting or manifestation in their dwelling, and especially if it follows them around from residence to residence, place to place. Does this constitute grounds to file a mental health insurance claim? Does it validate filing a homeowner's insurance claim to bring in a paranormal cleanup team that might cost $1,000, a cool grand, and you're going to apply your $250 deductible to it? Has anybody here heard of claimants, basically legal claimants for paranormal phenomenon? Does that ever happen?
I personally have not heard of anything like that being available, although I do actually like the idea. I really do. Especially these days, the paranormal is accepted a lot more from the general public. With all the shows out there and all the teams popping up everywhere, the places that you can go on group investigations and witness, evidence for yourself. It's a lot more and more widely spread, acceptance of it. So insurance, I think it'd be an excellent idea. The issue that I see is proving that to the insurance company, which would be where the team comes in and gets the evidence, both video and audio. But we'd almost have to train the insurance companies in order to accept said evidence, and it may be a big fight on those issues.
I'm hip. Any thoughts on that along those lines, Tom?
Yeah, I haven't ran into anything like that at all. I agree with what Keith's saying. The only sometimes there's a situation where one of our paranormal clients, I evaluate and realize that they also have a mental health issue that could include like hallucinations, and sometimes they sometimes can't tell the difference if it's a paranormal experience or one of their hallucinations. But usually they're diagnosed already if they're an adult with that type of thing. But we've had cases where that has occurred, and we have to take into account their difficulties with hallucinations or delusions. That's why it's really important if those kind of cases come up to try to have a psychotherapist or a psychologist, invited in on the investigation.
Now, would those be children or adults or both?
Usually
having hallucinations.
Usually, there's two ways of thinking about it. Some people feel that you can't diagnose anyone with that unless they're an adult, and I tend to go along with that. It's very rare that a child under 10 has any type of hallucinations like that, but sometimes it happens, and then you have to get permission to consult with their providers if they have any. But with children also, that I believe that they can, like Keith was saying, they can experience and see things that eventually a lot of kids grow out of, but that's not that's part of the mix that happens. But either way, if a team goes in there, it seems to be reassuring to whoever's living in the house.
Well, that certainly was the case with your family, Keith. Am I right?
Yeah.
You turned me on to the show that aired
Dead
that
Files?
I had never heard of, the Dead Show, because I don't watch television. I'm a hermit. And tell us, because that ties into this whole hallucination thing, doesn't it?
It does. EMF, electromagnetic frequencies, electromagnetic radiation. You get it from house wiring, from your microwave, from your refrigerator, from your electric stove, from your heating system. If you're in a small kitchen and you're cooking for over 2 hours, I mean, it surrounds you. and the human body is affected by EMF. Your house wiring, your breaker boxes, they can put off so much EMF that it can actually cause migraines, hallucinations, health issues. So that is one of the first things that we check for when we go into a location, is how much EMF is hitting.
And how do you measure that?
There's special meters, K2 meters. I've got
Sorry, what kind?
K2 meters. And you'll have to forgive me, my memory isn't too well from a car accident.
Well, I don't mean
So
to
I do
pressure
blank
you
out
here.
on
I mean, I'm interrogating. I realize that, but I'm curious. I want to know. You know, this 5G thing, it's something I write about a lot. But go on.
That has me worried. It really does. I'm starting to try to look into that. I don't think it's going to be a good thing for wildlife, birds, bees, etc., let alone humans. But we're going to have to get the proof of that. And again, scientific instruments would be the thing to use in that aspect to get proof.
And you know, people are whipping out their meters and
Yeah.
measuring radiation, and other
Yep.
people are inventing basically Faraday cages
Mhm.
that hamper the radiation, limit the radiation. And I
Yep.
don't want to stray too far from children and ghosts, but I have to say that there's been at least one scientific study with standing people 2 feet from a smart meter that's basically 5G radiation. And
Mhm.
it altered their blood cells, the structure of their blood cells under a high-powered microscope into abnormal cell shapes. So
Yeah.
there's definitely a physiological effect going on. And then there was a firehouse in California where the telecom company put in a 5G tower, and firefighters were coming down with the symptoms you just described, and they moved the location of their firehouse because the telecom would
Mhm.
not be moved. So this
Yeah.
is not fantasy. This is not a
It's
conspiracy
real.
theory. This is
Yeah.
a genuine conspiracy going on. But
And that
what I
leads
want to
back to
ask you,
your
Keith,
insurance claim.
what I want to ask you, I want to get back to the ghosts and the kids thing. When
Yeah.
you were a kid,
Uh-huh.
did anyone accuse you? Did you see ghosts per se, or was that not your issue?
My initial experience, I saw very well. It's still embedded in here. I can play it like a video. It every second
You're
of it
breaking up
is
a
in
little
here.
bit.
I mean, I've had it frightened me.
Say
Okay,
that
can you
again.
hear me
You
now?
broke up a little bit. When you put your hands up,
Can you hear me
something
now?
happened. Yeah, go ahead. Start that over, please.
Oh, I do Reiki. When I get nervous, I put out energy, so sometimes it affects my reception. I apologize.
Okay,
I'll try
well,
to keep
take
it
a
down.
chill pill. Take a chill pill.
Yep, yep.
You're among friends here.
You bet, you bet. I saw everything with my eyes. I heard everything with my ears. This thing came out of a chimney in our closet in our bathroom. I mean, the chimney exploded. There were bricks everywhere. I heard everything, saw everything, and this thing was trying to crawl out and get to me. And my mom walked right through it, didn't see it. Next morning, nothing was there. But during the time, yeah, I heard and saw everything.
And
After
then
that,
did you tell them about your parents about it afterwards?
yeah.
And what did they
No,
say?
Mom took me into the bathroom and opened the closets, and there's nothing here. The chimney's still here. Everything's still here. Nothing's here.
So
Nothing
the
happened
monster
last
under the bed syndrome. There's
Yeah,
no monster
exactly.
under the bed. There's no monster in the closet. But
Right.
you know what you saw.
After that, it frightened me enough that I think I closed off, but also I hid under the covers and I was afraid to be alone because mom left me, there alone. It took me a long time, but I remember hearing, "You don't have to be alone." I'm like, "I don't? No, I'm here with you. I can be with you if you let me." I'm like, "Okay." Well, that was where I made a mistake. I made a deal with this thing.
Oh.
That was the moment of possession. So that could have affected me seeing things, hearing things, because if I had spirit guides, why would this thing want me to hear them, to see them? Because they'd be trying to help me. If that makes sense, I've done a lot of thinking about that. But yeah, after that, I just kind of felt things until I was involved in a car accident and had an out-of-body experience. And I shouldn't be sitting here talking to you. I should be in the ground. but somehow I am still here. So it's been an interesting time. Now if I'm supposed to see them, I see them. If I'm supposed to hear them, I hear them. If I'm supposed to feel them, I feel them. But back then, it went from seeing to just barely feeling to nothing for a long time.
You're talking about your spirit guides.
Anything.
Okay, all right. Tom, how much of this sounds familiar to you as a therapist?
Well, I'm glad, Keith, I'm glad you brought up the fact that sometimes the cause of migraines could be, EMF in the house that is too intense. And that'll remind me to talk to people that are having difficulty with migraines and no medication is helping, that I should, recommend that they get electrician in to test the EMF in the house. So thank you for that one. That's for sure.
You're welcome. And that could lead back into the insurance thing.
Yeah. But that it's like science. EMF does exist, and they have meters that can detect it.
Might have to do a whole show on that. I was thinking about maybe taking the show and making it topic oriented. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah, that's a good
Where
idea.
all the panelists pursue the same topic and we mash it like rugby players and doing a scrum thing.
I like that idea because that would really educate the viewers. It could help somebody.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
last question for you, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
When you were a kid, do you think you ever saw a ghost or ghosts?
Nope. I feel like I have no talents in that direction at all. No gifts on that side of the fence. It wasn't until like I was in the group like 5 years before I did think I saw something. But I think if you're in an organization like that, start becoming open, a little bit more open, and then that part of yourself that can do that starts developing. I only saw two different things. One was a black thing going out a door when we had a minister blessing a house. And my job was to hold the door open. They had two little kittens in the house, so I wanted to make sure that they didn't leave. But that's part of the ritual of a blessing, that you have to have a window or a door open for things to leave that need to leave. And so I saw a little black object about like the size of a small cat, but it wasn't one of the cats. It was just really dark, darker than I've ever seen before. And then one other time I saw a cat underneath a cocktail table for about 3 seconds. And later, the people in the house said there used to be a cat that passed away. And so I'm thinking maybe that was what I saw. But those are the only two
Ghost
experiences.
cat.
Otherwise, I stay on this side of the fence.
I hear you. I myself don't seem to draw ghosts. I think that's by mutual arrangement, but it's hard to say. But that was an excellent article, Tom, and I'm so glad that you brought that to share. I would imagine a lot of people can relate to that, young and old. I imagine there's a lot of parents out there listening who
Thank you.
vibrate to kids who are seeing stuff that are they just making it up, are they fibbing, or is this genuine, and at what point does a parent go and seek help, right? And
Yeah.
anyone seeking that help can go see Tom McGuire to get that help.
Yeah, I only
With that,
covered northern Wisconsin.
oh, well, there you go, all you northern Wisconsinites, he's your man. And now I'd like to take us into another topic. As a UFO researcher and skeptic, by the way, I find that once you start looking at one topic, it quickly leads to another, and there's all these dots that get connected. It's It's really incredible. So I wrote an article for the dailyconspiracy.com. I'm a regular contributor there. This one appeared in November of last year, and it's called Freaky Green Crop Circle in Brown Autumn Field. And as a UFO researcher, there's a link between crop circles and UFOs, which has yet to be completely identified, but there's certainly, they run together. Let's just put it to you that way. And while the topic of UFOs is kind of creepy and scary to a lot of people, they have aversion to even thinking about it. The subject of crop circles is touchy-feely and friendly, and everybody loves it. So here we go. Freaky Green Crop Circle in Brown Autumn Field by me as Lightworker 111, writing for the dailyconspiracy.com and reproduced with their kind permission. Here we go. The high strangeness surrounding crop circles just got a whole lot stranger. Freaky, in fact. England is crop circle central, with the most reported formations anywhere in the world. The circles almost always appear on natural earth energy lines called ley lines over a natural spring. Almost half of all crop circles found in the United Kingdom in 2003 were located within a 9-mile radius of the 4,800-year-old Avebury stone circles, which are some 50 miles northwest of Winchester. Although the mainstream media parrots the words of world governments that all crop circles are hoaxed by humans using long boards with knotted ropes threaded through each end to make a trampling bar, this is by no means true. Discussing mysterious crop circles in any serious way is taboo, which speaks volumes about how important the subject is to Big Brother and the New World Order. It's worth mentioning that some crop circles are not circular. Some depict other geometric shapes, such as triangles or pentagons. Others illustrate a butterfly and a jellyfish. Still others look like astronomical maps or symbols. Coded messages have been translated from several formations, and a group of engineers claims that some designs describe energy-saving motors and energy-producing devices. No one knows for sure who or what makes genuine crop circles, but they share several key characteristics. Notably, they are very large, some longer than an American football field. They are quite elaborate in their designs. The crop is often whorled, twisted, knotted, or counter-rotated in rings. The pattern is visible only from an elevation, uphill or from an airplane. The crop circle appears overnight, with few, if any, witnesses. And finally, there are no human traces. Government debunkers work hard to convince everyone with no real knowledge about crop circles that there is nothing paranormal about this phenomenon. This position, however, flies in the face of scientific evidence that points to distinct and measurable magnetic field disturbances and thermal effects similar to that made by microwave energy. For example, the grain stalks appear to have been heated rapidly, causing water inside the nodes, which are the plant joints, to expand until the nodes burst apart to release the energy. And the plants with the greatest node expansion are located in the center of a crop circle. Farmers report that the soil underneath a real crop circle is changed for several growing seasons. Some have also observed steam rising into the air from within a new crop circle. Something physical and measurable is left behind with the vast majority of authentic crop circles. Researchers have found distinct changes in crop circle soil temperature, composition, and crystalline structure in the soil and within the crops inside the formations. It has been scientifically documented that soil samples taken from within crop circles show changes to the soil's crystalline structure and mineral composition, and the soil appears to have been baked. The heat output needed to cause the baking effect noted was calculated to be 2,700 degrees Fahrenheit. Ultrasound may also play a role in crop circle creation. Eyewitnesses have heard a trilling sound before watching a new formation take place in front of their very eyes. Typically, the air is completely still, with no wind and utterly silent. This trilling sound was recorded on magnetic tape and analyzed at NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab, which said the sound was mechanical in nature with a frequency of 5.2 kilohertz. Let me say that again. This trilling sound had a frequency measured by NASA's JPL lab, 5.2 kilohertz. One researcher named William Lefty Levengood demonstrated that seeds from crop circle plants become superpowered, producing between 30 and 400% more food and biofuel per seed, with up to 75% more nutritional value per plant. More than 80 people have reported witnessing crop circles forming in 15 to 20 seconds. They all saw incandescent or bright colored balls of light, orbs, before and after the crop circle formation. One video shot on August 11th, 1996, and judged authentic, shows orbs of light over a field where a crop circle pops up. I'm talking about the Oliver's Castle video there if anybody wants to go over to YouTube and check that out. Famed paranormal investigative journalist Linda Moulton Howe met Levengood in England in 1999 when she looked into crop circles. Since then, Howe has revisited some of the fields where formations appeared and documented an unexpected side effect. Quoting her, "Once in a while, when spring returned, I would be surprised to see that an exact pattern that had been in the field the summer before would leave a pale trace in the same field the following year. That's why they were called ghost patterns," unquote. Something similar to this just happened in England, except that the ghost crop is greening up in a brown autumnal field. On the night of July 15 to 16, 2019, in Fully Wood near Titchburn, Hampshire, United Kingdom, during a 50% partial lunar eclipse, a geometric pattern was laid out in the flattened cereal crop composed of 27 triangles, which formed a cube. The original wheat pattern was recorded by Nick Bull from Stonehenge Dronescapes with a camera on a drone. Bull then reported that the same crop circle pattern reemerged on October 23rd in Rodfield Lane, Titchburn, in vivid green. The verdant grain contrasted sharply against the adjacent vegetation, which had turned from green into the brown colors and other colors of the fall season. So the question on everyone's mind down on Conspiracy Street is, how is it possible that the same wheat pattern formed again 2 months later as if it were spring? So I ask you two guys here with me today, Tom McGuire and Keith Ottersberg, Have you ever heard anything about this freaky green crop circle in the fall? What do you think about crop circles?
It's something I really haven't looked into a whole lot. I've done a little research on them. Some people have debunked them by taking a rope and a paddleboard out there, and stomping down and making designs. But some of them I've seen, like you said, I mean, the details are so intricate, detailed words, that, say overnight, I don't see any possible way, especially in the dark, that could have made by human. Plus, like you said in the article, there is scientific evidence that is measurable, that something else caused this. And it's interesting that you mentioned the 5.2 kilohertz, because that is cell phone frequency. I found that. But I had to Google it, but that's the first thing that popped up. It's cell phone frequency. So I'm going to start doing some more research on this. You've really piqued my curiosity here. Energy, it's what I deal with in the paranormal, in Reiki. You can do a lot of things with it. Some people say you're full of bunk if you even start to talk about it. You're nuts. That doesn't exist, but it does. Even the human body puts out energy, electricity. It can be measured. So you have something coming down, doing its thing. It's going to leave an energy signature that may maybe make that vegetation age faster, and it goes into its dormant stage that would be for fall. That's the first thing that popped into my head. Maybe it's actually aging it. Maybe it's a time factor, which is a whole nother conversation. But that's what's popping into my head as a possibility.
Interesting. That is, I hadn't thought of that. Really good. Tom, thoughts?
Well, I think someone sending us messages by doing that. It's like preparing the earth to be able to accept that we're not the only ones in the universe. Because of all the, especially the article pointed out all these different things that happening when those crop circles appear. It just debunks any idea that it's just some man-made thing with a rope and a board, because so much biology changes in the plants, and it just doesn't make any sense to say that they just are man-made.
Well, apparently it's
Because all
very.
this,
Oh, go ahead.
just because of all the things that they've discovered when people examined the crop circles and the individual plants.
And apparently it's very easy to tell the difference between a faked, well, I don't want to say faked, human-made and not made by human crop circle. When humans use the board and ropes to flatten the crop, the stalk will bend and snap quite often, break off. And when you see authentic crop circles, these stalks of cereal grain are bent down as if they had been heated and then cooled and stayed in that shape. Also, there's evidence of forces whirling and swirling. And another researcher who's done quite a bit with crop circles is Patty Greer. I had the great fortune to meet her in Boulder, Colorado, and she gave a great presentation on crop circles. She's been over many times, made I think 8 videos about crop circles that are all phenomenal. And she did talk to Lefty Levengood and his lab assistant Penny Kelly, who discovered the potentizing effects of whatever energy is associated with crop circles. It's not clear if this energy is making the crop circles or what. In other words, cause and effect is a little hard to determine. Where do these orbs of light come into it all? Are they actually, in other words, a lot of people are thinking the orbs of light are beaming energy down to the earth and making swirling and agitations. But what Patty Greer revealed, which is really super interesting, is that all evidence is that the energy is being pushed up from inside Earth. And Patty is a fellow pagan Wiccan who believes that Gaia, our Earth Mother, is a living entity with consciousness, and that somehow these crop circles are messages from Gaia, and that maybe the orbs, it's not clear again how the orbs tie in, at least it's not clear to me how the orbs tie in, that they are perhaps drawing energy from Gaia outward. And what are these orbs? Are they, obviously they're UFOs, unidentified flying objects, but are they alien craft with occupants? That we don't know. We've seen imagery, for better or for worse. As a skeptic, I take all imagery with a small Siberian salt mine, by which I mean I understand as a computer scientist that imagery can be faked, but we've seen lots of imagery, whether it's genuine or not, of something that might be a mothership, a larger light, where smaller objects detach from it, go around it, float around and play around, and then they come back and rejoin this thing at some future time. So are these orbs sent down to do a task? A lot of questions, but what's really interesting to me as a taboo topics researcher is how the mainstream press won't touch this topic with a 10-foot pole. It's just it's uncanny how this is so taboo. It seems so harmless. What's the big deal?
Yeah,
That-
anything that's not easily explainable. It seems like there's people that just don't want to wrap their heads around it, or try to think about it more than in our limited way of seeing things. If that spirituality was happened, hundreds of years ago, and then when we got to the place where everything was just science and that was gone away, and now it's coming back, that things besides science are part of what we need to pay attention to. So uh,
Yes,
the idea of
physics and
Gaia,
metaphysics. Go ahead.
yeah,
Yeah.
idea of um, the spirits of the earth might be involved makes sense to me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've read articles about not only the Earth being a living conscious, but also the universe itself having
Yes.
being conscious of itself.
Yes.
It's a little hard to get your head wrapped around. But you mentioned in that article some of those crop circles were, say, futuristic motor designs, or designs to give us free energy. That would actually make sense as a message from Gaia. What are we doing to the Earth? We are drilling down into her.
And
Don't you think
fracking.
that would?
Now
Yeah.
fracking.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are destroying this Earth, not only with pollution, but by fracking, by drilling. That fracking, it cracks the rocks. It makes the bedrock unstable. And then it lubricates and
Fluid,
slides
with
over each
pressurized
other,
fluid. Yeah.
causing
Sorry.
earthquakes. So it makes total sense that Mother Earth would be giving us information on ways to upgrade our energy systems so that we don't have to do that to her anymore. So that makes perfect sense to me.
And that's exactly the thinking that the Thrive movement is pursuing, and not just the Thrive movement with Foster Gamble of the Procter and Gamble family, but he left the family business to become an alternative researcher and stump for free energy, or 0 point energy is probably a better way to call it. We think in terms of free energy, but you still got to build devices, and that there's a cost associated with that. But in case anybody doesn't know what we're talking about, a 0 point device, which mainstream physicists say is impossible, cannot happen given the laws of physics as we know them. In most systems, it takes more energy input than energy will output. Generating power takes energy away. But with these 0 point devices, more power comes out than is input. And mainstream physicists say impossible. But there are people around the world working on this right now, lots of people. And these crop circle patterns are being expanded through digital graphics into animated 3D images. So if you get concentric rings or a donut shape, that's a toroidal shape, and it's known to have an energy signature. If you made one, say, with copper wiring and you passed current through it, it has a distinctive energy signature. And agreeing totally with you, Keith, that some other intelligence appears to be suggesting to humans step away from the nuclear power, step away from the fossil fuels, and step toward these alternative energies, which ironically are the most natural on Earth.
Agreed. And then look at the government, big pharma, big oil fighting all of this. Say, take Tesla. He was figuring out how to send electricity through the air, pulling it out of the air for free power for the world. All of his research was stolen. He died a broken man because of that. He is, in a sense, the father of the cell phone, this, that, the other thing. He was a genius, and he claimed that he got his ideas from the universe.
While sleeping and from angels? Is that what you read too?
Yes. He was so far advanced for his time. I think that's very possible that could be, something similar to this. They're saying, hey, you guys are destroying your own planet here. Here's this idea. Here's how to build it. Get this done. But then we have other forces saying, no, there's no money in that. We can't make money. We can't control people with that. Let's continue destroying the earth. There's money in that.
What do you think, Tom?
I agree with Keith. That idea that there's some people like Tesla that really have no evil intention, no selfish intentions, and want to help us, the whole world, live in an environment that is clean and not invading in the earth and making it just using its resources to the detriment of everyone. Even in the Native American tradition, they say even rocks have spirits, and when we just count those type of things, I think we're not helping the earth at all. That's for sure.
In your practice, Tom, do you meet people who think they've had experiences with UFOs?
A few. Actually, I was driving home one night, and I was driving, and my wife and daughter were in the car with me. They saw a triangular UFO above our heads, and I found out later we weren't the only ones that saw it at that time. Unfortunately, I didn't see it. I
Because you were
missed my
driving?
opportunity. I was driving and didn't have a chance to look out the window to see it.
Well, that reminds me of the Betty and Barney Hill UFO abduction story, which happened in 1961 and was reported in 1965. He was driving, like you were driving, and she was looking out the window and saw this strange light, thought she discovered a new planet, and then starts calling it over to the car, woohoo, come on over, and it does. And then their incredible story begins. And if you just tuned in, you're here with me, the host of Taboo Topics with Jean Broida, and I have a couple of awesome ghostly friends, ghost hunting friends. We got Keith Ottersberg, who is an experiencer and now researcher into the paranormal, specifically, I think, ghosts, if I'm right. And Tom McGuire, who has a clinical practice helping people who are bothered by paranormal manifestations, which is awesome. This whole topic is getting a lot more credibility, and I'm really grateful that you guys could carve out some precious time and share your news and views with our international audience here on my YouTube channel, Taboo Topics with Gene Broida, that's being simulcast by the Global Enlightenment Radio Network, GERN. And you can find the link to this show at tabootopics.life, LIFE /shows. So let's get on with it. And let's hear what Keith Ottersberg has brought to the Paranormal Roundtable here.
Okay. I chose an article off of the website called the International Center for Reiki Training. It's called Understanding and Releasing Spirit Attachments. It was by Diane Ruth Shoemaker. And it's interesting that I picked this article because of the one that you did. Reiki, adjusting chakra points of the human spirit and the body. The earth, your ley lines. The earth actually has chakra points. Just a weird connection I made there. Understanding and releasing spirit attachments. Every day we are exposed to a multitude of so-called positive and negative energy influences. Some are created within ourselves through our habitual thoughts, feelings, emotions, and behaviors. Others seem to come from around us via our interactions with people and events in our immediate lives and within larger world community, as well as from a host of environmental sources such as weather, sound, noise, chemicals, toxins, water, and food quality, and the like. These influences play a large role in creating our state of health and well-being. If positive, we experience them as life-sustaining and enriching. Reversed, they can cause accumulations and stresses within our energy systems that weaken us, and which can lead to chronic and serious disease and imbalances in the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual levels of our being. As Reiki practitioners and teachers, we are often called on to help our clients and students to heal from the effects of these kinds of influences as they show up within the auric field. At these subtle levels, certain negative blocks and patterns can be found, which over time can have undesirable effects on the person's health if left uncorrected. It also is a given that our own energy systems require the same kind of healing attention. This article is about a specific grouping of negative, subtle energies, most commonly known as spirit attachments, cords, entities, and psychic attack. Through these energies, though these energies can vary in power and potential effects, the overall philosophy of healing these concerns is the same. The process of clearing any of them from the energy field is generally referred to as spirit releasement. And that will be the term used throughout this article to denote this type of healing work. They'll begin by addressing the value of knowing about spirit releasement in the practice, then to help recognize when such energies may be present, to define spirit attachments, cords, various other negative psychic energies, what can make a person more susceptible to their influence, and how they can affect a person. An angelic spirit releasement technique will be described with examples of how how it was applied in sessions with the clients. There comes a time in most Reiki practitioners' development when it becomes important and valuable to learn more about spirit releasement. Doing so will better prepare you to handle such eventualities should they arise, and will make it less likely that you will be caught by surprise, as can sometimes happen if this topic is new to you. Perhaps you're reading this article that has to come. In many ways, dealing with such energies during a healing session is no different than what you have previously been trained to do. I'm going to skip that paragraph. It's got nothing to do with what we're talking about. Negative energies such as spirit attachments, cords, entities, and psychic attack are quite obvious to the person trained to recognize these kinds of blocks and patterns. Becoming more aware of such energies and how to release and transform them can be highly beneficial to the recipient's health and well-being, both in the present and the long term. For example, you can help your client focus on healing the particular weakness in his or her energy field that allowed the attachment in the first place. This strengthens the energy system, such as the future attachments are not as likely to occur. Interestingly enough, the spirit also receives healing benefits in that sending it to the light allows it to heal and move forward with its own evolution. This can all be taken care of by doing your own shadow healing around these concerns to help yourself, dealing with whatever comes up in such a way that it no longer holds any charge for you. In essence, what this article is saying is in the paranormal field, like my team, we go out, we deal with clients who are having paranormal issues. Attachments can be anything from a human spirit to what we call leeches. It's just like a little, like he kind of described, a little black thing that attaches at a weak point in your chakra. It gets through, it attaches, it sucks energy. You can get them from going through Walmart. Well, this person's out of energy. Oh, look over there. There's a fresh one. Drops off, jumps over. Guess what? You got an attachment. Usually these will fall off by themselves. The more intelligent ones, not so much, which is where I use Reiki a lot in order to help these attachments and help to remove the attachments. Reiki is energy work. You pull energy from the universe in to your crown. You direct it to where it needs to go on your patient, on your client. You're rebuilding chakras, you're charging chakras, you're aligning chakras so that their own energy flow is more natural and not depleted. That helps to strengthen their aura, which helps to keep attachments from reattaching. If it is a spirit attachment, then we also get to help that spirit go to where it needs to go. So you're healing two individuals at the same time there. And this all plays back into the energy that we've been talking about all night. Everything is energy, everything. In one form or another, the human soul, your body runs on energy, chemical energy, electrical energy. Science has proven that energy cannot be destroyed, only changed. So when we die, our body dies. What happens to that energy? It's got to change into something, correct? A lot of even scientists now are thinking that is the human soul that leaves our body at the time of death. Well, some of those souls may not be ready to cross. They may be afraid of judgment, so they stick around. The longer they stick around, the more angry they get. They need energy to work. Boom, somebody's got an attachment. So we help to push them where they get to go. So it's it really helps with the clients. It also helps. I've actually helped. This is going to sound kind of weird. There are things out there that a lot of people probably aren't going to believe in. This particular one it's called a wraith, which is a human spirit that has been here for a long time and has pretty much lost its humanity. This particular entity was almost to that point. I used Reiki in order to help it regain his humanity, and then he was willing to cross over. Sometimes they get to the point where you can't do that, and then we have other options. But it's
banishment.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Something happened to your sound just now. Something just happened with your sound, by the way. It got really kind of weak and tinny. There, now you're back.
Okay.
Your dynamic aura.
Yes, banishment. We change that negative energy into other types of energy that that Gaia can recycle and send where it needs to.
Hey,
So
something
it's
changed with your sound. I hate to interrupt you, but I want everybody to hear every precious word that you're saying. So whatever you did, undo it.
okay. Is this
That's
better?
it. Now you're back.
Okay. I had to breathe for a moment. My
No,
energy level
no
was
breathing allowed. Kidding, of course. Yes, we want to breathe.
I get excited sometimes when I'm talking about things, and I was starting to get excited, and my energy level was
Well, you're
expanding.
excited again, so take another breath and let's hear from Tom. We haven't heard from Tom in a few minutes. Oh, you get unmute, my friend. And if you've just joined us, this is Taboo Topics with Gene Broida. And we are airing Sunday, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time in the United States, coast to coast and around the world on my YouTube channel, Taboo Topics with Gene Broida, and also from my website, tabootopics.life/shows, and also simulcast on the Global Enlightenment Radio Network. So Tom has had a little bit of technical difficulty and he is back. What do
I'm
you make of
back.
all this?
I wanted to say wow to Keith because that's amazing what he did with that entity. We
Truly.
we do have a novice paranormal member of our society who um, practices Reiki and has clients that she deals with that way. And when your microphone was messing up, that was my thought too, Gene. That is his energy level was doing it, nothing else.
And
So
just to
that
clarify for the audience, when you say society, your society, tell everybody again what society that is. I know, but let them know.
yeah, Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society. We're a organization that's we're a nonprofit, and we have like 20 people in it, and we do any type of difficulties with any type of paranormal experience that people are going through. And so we cover like the top third of Wisconsin, and try to help anybody that calls us. So
Awesome.
that's what we do.
And obliquely, that's how Tom and I met, through this society and through one of its active participants, if not one of the founders, Kevin Malik. Was he a founder of this group? I don't
Yeah.
remember, but certainly very active. And his wife, Jennifer, put us together on a show called The Paralogian Report, which we did many episodes together. And I always wanted to hear more from you, Tom, on those shows. The time always goes so fast, but we had more panelists on that show. And I really like this 3-person format where we all get to blather quite a bit. I'm really digging it. And I'm really digging what you guys have to say because it's frankly blowing my minds. Uh, Keith,
Uh,
you astonish me
somehow,
because somehow I was thinking you were just about possession, demonic possession, or whatever kind of possession. And here you have gone into these other areas of great interest, Reiki or Reiki, whatever you say. What were you going to say there, Tom?
I'm somehow on this Facebook that has broadcasting this program, and underneath it has comments. And
Oh,
Jennifer just said that excited for Tom and Gene, my wonderful friend.
oh,
Just want to let you know that.
Jennifer Malik, that would be.
Yeah,
Well, we're
yeah.
shouting out to you, Jen. We love you. And we love Kevin. And for viewers who don't know Kevin Malik, Jennifer Malik, awesome soulmates. Kevin stopped walking the earth plane shortly after Christmas. Although we mourn his loss in physicality, we know he's here with us in spirit. We know that. And we love you, Jen. You're my
Yeah, I'm
sister.
glad Jen was able to listen to this broadcast.
Me too. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Wow. So yeah, this whole uh, the notion that the universe is vibration, it's becoming clearer and clearer and clearer to even us puny humans that this is the case. Of course, Einstein was getting close to it with his famous equation E equals mc squared, where basically there's an equivalency between energy and mass. And when we talk in Zen Buddhism about the our world is illusion. Our world is illusion. You take something like a cup, it appears to be solid, right? I can knock on it with my fist like that. But in reality, it is a collection of very rapidly moving atoms, which are made of neutrons, protons, and electrons. And those are subdivided into mini particles, and everything subdivides until you get down to some very tiny, tiny elements that they're screwing around with over at CERN in Switzerland. That could be the topic for a whole new show. Are they punching holes into parallel universes or dimensions? And in other words, the model here is that we have stacks of dimensions like leaves in a book, pages in a book, and that from our dimension here now, through what the technologies, the super particle acceleration at CERN, you can punch through to a neighboring dimension, one right next door, either that way or that way, and take a look in. Well, you can take a look in, but is something going to be looking back or jumping through? That's the main concern, is will we be letting possibly demonic entities into our, even more demonic entities into our dimension from other dimensions. In other words, we're once again, as with nuclear energy, we're fooling around with very great forces that we have no understanding of at all, and doing trial and error. Is this really the way we want to go with empiricism? Or will people start listening to the psychics who are saying, be careful?
Exactly. We got science trying to open doors to other universes when us paranormal investigators are trying to close them. We go in and we find a portal, which entities can come in and out. Some do seem to be from other realms. So, we're trying to close these things so nothing else can come through and harm our clients, when science is over here trying to open mega portals. And to tell you the truth, that scares the heck out of me. I don't know if that's such a good idea or not. We might want to do some more research into that before we just go and punch a hole into another universe. We don't know what we're going to find.
Yeah, talk about not researching 5G, which we haven't. Now they want to punch a hole in the next dimension? What are they thinking? And I actually wrote an article for the Daily Conspiracy about what boils down to a mad scientist. A mad scientist, he was, I want to say he was Russian or Ukrainian, something along that line, working at CERN, and delusions of grandeur, showing up drunk and a total autocrat, and having the engineers perform very dangerous maneuvers in the name of science, until finally he was carted off and disgraced because he just went too far. He took this power craziness too far. It's hard for average people to even understand this thinking, is what is my belief.
There's a show on Netflix I've been watching called The Flash. And on that show is exactly what we're talking about right now. They built a particle accelerator. It blew up, causing all these, quote, metahumans, giving them superpowers, punching holes into parallel worlds and other universes, which things kept coming through, which were not good for this world. There were, there's Earth 1, Earth 2, Earth 3, Earth 50. It'll really blow your mind if you really get into it. But it's weird how it all plays out. We've actually got one of those machines that they're messing around with, and like you said, all it would take is one person to make a mistake, and boom, and we don't know what's going to happen.
Well, I am not, despite the fact that I write articles about provocative and sometimes unsettling topics, believe it or not, I'm not a fear mongerer. I am a light worker, and light work is not always pleasant, or I would like it to be upbuilding, but sometimes upbuilding is hard work. Light work can be hard work. And I'm thinking about Aleister Crowley, a grand magician who's often little understood today, but he talked about right use of will and taking an interest basically in unseen phenomenon so that we can dominate them. Typically, humans are playing the victims in these scenarios, and it doesn't have to be that way. As you, for example, Keith, have demonstrated with your story.
Yeah, it takes a lot for somebody who's going through that type of trauma uh, to step forward and ask for help, because anytime you reach out or talk to anybody about it, you're deemed as crazy. So you don't talk about it. You crawl into a little shell, and that makes things worse. Um, it's it causes PTSD. It causes all kinds of things that we have to deal with afterwards. Um, and the more I've tried to educate myself in this, the more I've found is out there that can affect the human body, the human spirit. Um, and it takes a lot of courage to stand up for yourself and reach out for that help. And the human winning in that situation and getting the help they need, it's just an amazing process.
I bet Tom can relate to that.
I agree. It's like if someone has those difficulties, it really would be helpful if they at least connect with some type of a good paranormal group, because we in the group we have a lot of different skills that and then someone comes to one of the meetings, it's almost like validates that they're not crazy. They're experiencing things that most people don't aren't open to trying to understand. It seems like over the years, science fiction ends up turning into science. And 30 years ago or 40 years ago, the idea of cell phone would seem crazy to people, and now we have them. There's lots of examples where that happens, and also it just people, if they have type of things like that, and that's one resource that is underutilized. We in the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society, we have like 20 people now that are involved in it. Not everyone comes to every meeting, not everyone participates in every investigation, but that's good because sometimes we may have two investigations going on at the same time. But it just helps the people that are are open to exploring things that are beyond just um, the two-dimensional world that we live in, or the three-dimensional world we live in, with people looking at the fourth dimension and what that is. And so the it's just good that there are groups out there that like Keith's involved in, and like I'm involved in, that are there for people that are going beyond the mundane, going beyond the the structure that people think we have to stay in.
Totally agree. Totally agree with that. Yeah. And it's becoming really, 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 really clear that part of light work and consciousness raising is being a positive, energetic source. Be happy, which is something that a lot of philosophies teach, but it's kind of it can be very hard to practice. Everybody isn't sunny Pollyanna all the time. We're frankly chemical stews with raging hormones swimming around our bloodstreams. We can feel good in meditation class and all OMI at a paranormal conference around people who believe what we believe, at least more or less, but get behind the wheel of a car, you're driving in traffic, somebody cuts you off for whatever reason, all of a sudden, how many of us become passive aggressive? It's just something that has become maybe a little too automatic with us to say, hey, they me first. And to me, spirituality is in great part is being conscious of what is motivating me at any instant to think what I'm thinking, feel what I'm feeling, and say what I'm saying if I'm talking, and try to shift the dynamics. It isn't always possible, but try to shift the dynamics to be much more empathetic, putting myself in someone else's position. Why is that person cutting me out of traffic? Well, they're late for something. They didn't plan their time well. Well, they just noticed that's their exit. And they've got to cross 3 lanes of traffic without killing people or take a 15-minute detour getting turned around, right? I do try to compensate. However, sometimes I fail and I find myself getting angry. There was just no reason for that person to cut me out. And then I think things like, well, at least I don't have to live with that person. I'm not married to that person. I don't have to go home to see that person. With any amount of luck, I'll never encounter that person in traffic again. And then I say a little prayer. I do hope that their seemingly reckless driving, or at least inconsiderate driving, will not bring them or anyone else any harm. And by the time I get through with all of that thought and emotional process, I'm pretty well calmed down usually. And if none of that works, I do what Keith was doing, where I just start doing some breathing and focusing on my inhalations and exhalations, which is, if you didn't know, the simplest form of meditation and very powerful. Just focusing on one breath. Say you're on a telephone hold and all of a sudden it's starting to irritate you because you think you've been on hold too long. Just start, but you have to stay on hold. You don't have the luxury of just hanging up. For some reason, you need to be there. Just start focusing on your breathing and chilling, and maybe visualize your third eye. And it's just amazing how I can feel my blood pressure calming down. And I've been in a doctor's office where when I first got there, I was afraid of being late. I was maybe rushing down the hallway, and my initial blood pressure at the beginning of the doctor visit is a little high. And by the end of the visit, I ask for a retest, and all of a sudden it's back down into the normal range, if not the low range. And it's because I've been sitting there thinking about consciously willing my whole metabolism just to slow the freak down and slow down. And is that part of what goes on in Reiki, Keith? Because I'm trying to learn more about that. And
Yeah,
am I even saying it right?
Reiki, yeah. Different people pronounce it different ways. Reiki. I say Reiki.
Okay.
It is. It's a lot of it is just calming, breathing, getting that client to calm down, and get them into in essence a meditative state. You know, I play meditation music, which relaxes. I light candles, incense. I cleanse the area with sage, something similar, so that the energy is neutral. And a lot of times getting them into that meditative state helps them before I even begin the Reiki. Some people feel hot sensations of hot, cold, electricity, spider webs, pressure release. Some people don't feel anything, but yet after I'm done, a lot of times they're in such deep meditation, I literally have to touch them on the third eye in order to bring them back out of it. I can sit there and tap them on the shoulder, talk to them, say, hey, you're right. It's like nothing. I touch them right here, get a little energy going right there, touch them. They're like, whoa, where am I? And they got to sit there for a little while. So I totally get what you're saying, just the breathing, the controlling, the letting it go, trying to understand. Excuse me. why this person did what they did. We can't control what happens to us, but we can control how we react to that situation, which is something I've really worked on over the past 2 years, is standing back, thinking, okay, what's this person going through today? What happened to them today that they're coming into my store and ripping me apart because they need an air freshener for their car? What's going on with them? Maybe I can talk to them a little bit, give them a smile, and help them have a better day. Say a little prayer for them when they go out. It's about helping people. The more we help people, the more we help the global conscience. Again, that leads right back to energy. It is very difficult to stay positive all the time. But the important thing is, when things happen to us that we don't like, not to dwell on them. Think about them, figure them out, but don't dwell in that darkness. We got to have a balance, light and dark. That we cannot control that balance. It's going to happen. You may have a really good day. Next day, you may have a really bad day. But learn to control how you react to those situations, and you can totally turn those situations around into something good. You can see something, if you think about it, you can see something positive coming out of a negative situation.
Definitely. And
Yeah,
there is an art. Yes, go, run with this.
I agree completely. In my practice, we talk about there's a vagal nerve, and sometimes we're at a level where we feel at peace and calm, but then sometimes during the day we mobilize, and we're in a sympathetic nervous system where we end up having a fight or flight or freeze reaction, and then sometimes we're immobilized and we collapse and withdraw, and that goes back and forth many times during the day. We go from one to the other and to the other, but that's normal. That's normal to do that. So if we're more accepting of the fact that, okay, we're uptight right now, but that's okay, we'll get through this. We put a positive spin on those feelings. And if we shut down, that's sometimes happen, and say, you know what, I have to take a break. I can't deal with this right this moment. And then that helps renew you. People get in trouble, I think, when they think they have to be calm and together and peaceful all the time, 24/7. It just doesn't, it's not part of who we are as human beings. So more being able to accept the fact that somebody cuts you off in front of you, but that acceptance is the only way out of hell. It's the only way that you start putting it together and developing that inner strength to deal with no matter what comes up. And that's like a process. We never we never get to that place where we can deal with everything because we're human beings. But it's the same thing you're keep talking about, Keith, is being able to renew the positive in us in some way, so that we don't just stay stuck in the fight and flight, or we don't stay stuck in being shut down and withdrawn. We have to be able to come out of ourselves and be open to getting help and accepting that we can bring some positive energy to counteract all that negativity that occurs every day. And so working in any type of field where you're dealing with people, it's necessary to take care of yourself that way. That's really important. So I'm glad you brought it up, Keith.
Thank you. Another thing is being an empath. There's physical empaths, spiritual empaths, energy empaths. Some empaths feel physical pains of others that are having, medical issues. Some feel emotions. So when you're working in the general public and you have this going on all day long, 8-hour shift, this person comes up, they're happy, they're bubbly, all of a sudden your mood goes, hey, yeah, give me some of that. And then the next person, rips you apart because, the milk isn't new enough on the shelf. So your mood instantly goes down because you feel that anger. So you got to try not to pass that on to your next customer. You got to learn how to find that, again, that balance. And like we say, don't dwell. Feel it, but don't dwell there. Use it as a tool to know how to help that other person. And then shed it that way, because otherwise it can keep affecting you, affecting your energy, affecting your mood, your health. So that's something I felt I needed to throw out there. I think somebody needed to hear that. It's a process to learn. A lot of times I will be sitting here, all of a sudden I get a pressure in my chest. Okay, somebody's having anxiety. I look for a cord. Sometimes I can find it. It's okay. It's just a team member from my team. The energy led to her. Hey, how you doing today? Well, I got this going on. Okay, let's help you out. And then it's gone because I figured out where it came from and what the issue was, and I helped that person. So it's there's so many more aspects to the paranormal field, the metaphysical field. It would take a week-long discussion to get into all of them, but it all boils down to the subject, one of the main subjects that we were talking about tonight, and that's energy.
Quite so,
Right.
quite so. And I spy with my little eye the computer clock that says it is time to wrap this up with shout outs. So tell us, Keith, how can viewers contact you? And please feel free to tell everybody about projects you're involved in.
Okay. We have a Facebook page, Cobra Paranormal. We also have a website, cobraparanormal.com. I'm starting to get my podcast going again, providing I can find the right format and, tech works for me. It's on Facebook called the Otter's Den. And then also I'm a member of the Spirit Mechanics. They also have a web page or a Facebook page. And let's see, I also help a group called Haunted Rooms America. We go around to group investigations, teach people about equipment, how to use it, what it's like actually investigating, a haunted location, things to watch out for. That way they don't put themselves in danger. Just
Okay, I think you're a little far from your microphone, maybe, because all of a sudden you got really, really faint.
Okay, is this better?
No, I don't know what it is. But I did want to make sure everybody understood, because you cut out just briefly, that your Facebook, I believe you said you have a Facebook page for Otter's Den, like the animal, an Otter's Den.
Yes. Yes.
And what about this research group? You've said the name a few times, but make sure everybody understands how it's spelled. It's a little different, I think.
The Spirit Mechanics.
Yeah, and again, your fidelity all of a sudden got really lousy. I don't know what's up with that.
I'm not sure.
I don't know either. Spirit Mechanics with an X on the end, isn't it?
X. Yes.
X on the end.
Yep.
What about email? Do people email you?
They can do that directly from our website,
Okay.
cobraparanormal.com.
I'm sorry, one more time.
cobraparanormal.com. There's a link on our website.
Cobraparanormal.com.
Yes.
And there's a link
Yes.
under, I'm sorry, it's very hard to understand you. I'm repeating. I'm like that character on the science fiction shows whose only job is to repeat what the computer says. But I just want to make sure everybody knows how to contact you, Keith.
Okay, yeah, it's cobraparanormal.com. And there is a link right on the website there to email us.
Cool. Tom, take it away.
We have a website. It's NWI Paranormal, Northern Wisconsin Paranormal.com. And there's a contact us section. You click on that, and then there's a phone number, 715-614-1204. And then you can message us from that link on the contact us section if you need some help or asking any questions. So that's the best one to contact me or anyone else in the paranormal, including Jennifer Malik, who's now the head of the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society.
You know, I never thought to ask you, Tom, have you authored any books?
No, I have 3 pages written in my science fiction book. That's it.
Ooh, well, I'm
I
looking
only have
forward to that
300 more
one.
to go.
I am looking forward to that one. What about conferences? Do you do that sort of thing?
Do I do what?
Go to conferences, such like that?
Um, so far, only go to psychological conferences. I haven't been to any paranormal or society conferences, but I haven't done that. No.
Well, you never know what the future will hold.
Right.
For example, I just got an invitation to join the press corps, got a press pass for the upcoming Human Origins Conference in Albuquerque, New Mexico. This is April 2nd through April 5th. I am totally jazzed because
Terrific.
human origins is my bag, baby. This is really what I'm about. The ET link to human origin.
Nice. Congratulations.
And you can find me all over the place online, although you have to know where to look, of course, because you're looking for some trees in this vast forest of cyberspace. I am a regular contributor under the name Lightworker 111 for the dailyconspiracy.com, survival.update, and a slew of other publications. I have my own personal website, www.lightwork111.com. Light workers are people who shed light in the dark recesses of humanity and who fight evil forces, frankly, whether they're even aware of it or not. 111 represents synchronicity. I had no idea that other people see repeating numbers on digital displays, store receipts, license plates, but this is a thing, this is a phenomenon, and no one seems to really understand it, except that it does seem to have to do with some sort of cosmic signaling. In my case, when I see 111s, I will often have said something aloud. I talk to myself sometimes as a creative person. I'm not crazy. I will say something affirmative and look over and there's 111 on a clock, or I've had a brilliant idea and I look over and it's 111 on the clock. I see it a lot on clocks. But in terms of contacting me, please visit my website. And now I have a new show website, tabootopics.life. LIFE /shows. It's a work in progress. We've just kicked this off. And please feel free to email me, Gene at lightwork111.com. I love to hear from all viewers. And I love comments that people leave on my articles, although I have to tell you, at one time when I first started, I had the time to answer every comment, but not no more. There's just too much going on. But I do value all reader feedback, all viewer feedback, listener feedback. We just want to get it going on. So at this point, we have a few minutes left. So let's kick this rugby ball around a little more, if that's what they kick in rugby. Let's have just some final thoughts. I'm so glad you guys could be here with me tonight on Taboo Topics with Gene Broida. This is the March 1st edition. Any final thoughts? Tom?
This went really by really quickly. It was great to be on your show. We'd love to do this again because there's still a lot more to talk about. I'm glad I work with people that have psychic abilities, and we're really blessed in our Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society to have all sorts of different professions representative, which makes us really helpful to whoever we're dealing with. So I just wanted to throw that out there and acknowledge the people that we have.
And I know that Jen Malik and others who are associated with this group help find lost children.
Yeah, Jen's associated with a group that does that. and it's I can't remember the guy's name now, but he's
Dr. Chuck Kennedy?
yeah, that's the name. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he connects with it's something like 800 different psychics throughout the United States. And then if there's a missing person case or something that they feel like can be helped with, he puts that out to people, and getting really good results from it. And Jennifer Malik is one of the people that does that. She once had a drawing that she drew, and then it turned out to be this family's grandmother, looked just like the family's grandmother, and she wasn't even involved in being at the house, or was in a different state. So there's she's got a lot of talents, and is really has a lot of psychic abilities. That's for sure.
I can attest for that firsthand. She's read for me and very accurate. Final thoughts, Keith, before we wrap all this up and tie a neat bow on it?
It's awesome that she can do what she does, help to find missing. That's very important. And what you were hitting on with the numbers, the repeating numbers, every day, all day. Most of us pay attention. Whatever you're thinking about at that time, pay attention to it. They're giving you a clue. You need to work on that some more. You need to think about this over here. The numbers have different meanings. 55, 5's change. Something's going to change. 1, 2, 3, 4. You need to change something, or we're going to change something for you. It's like when you and I were talking this afternoon on the test. I look over at my stove, 111. You're light worker 111. What are the odds? What are the odds of that?
These synchronicities, meaningful coincidences. Go ahead, Keith.
Yes. I use numbers on my investigations. Power numbers, from their birth date. Numbers that I see on the way to the location. There was an issue on a case in Florida, and the number 3 kept coming into play. 5 and 3, 5 and 3. Another member of the team kept seeing a rock wall. Nobody could figure out a rock wall. Well, there wasn't a rock wall, but there were 5 rocks in front of a bush. Now, if you count from either side, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, third rock is in the middle. There was a paranormal issue under that rock. Once we got that rock up, we did what we needed to do, put that rock back down, thank the earth for helping us. That issue went away. So it's, a lot of times the numbers you see, you're not going to understand until you get on site, but it's very good to pay attention to them.
Well, I've had a splendid time, and everybody's right. The time went quickly. We always have a good time, and time flies when you're having fun. You can't do a show like this without excellent expert panelists such as Tom McGuire and Keith Ottersberg. I am so grateful that you could join me. I'm blessed. Namaste. That is our take on it, ladies and gentlemen, in viewer land. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in and listening in to Taboo Topics with Jean Broida at tabootopics.life/shows. See you next week. Over and out.
But one day, this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths choose to be self-evident.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment.